Honestly, they say when we see a spade, we should call it a spade, right? It is so sweet when I see these white American people actually now coming out to advocate for Black American people. I'm happy. I can't lie to you, right? We don't just always come here to bash them. We also need to talk about the good thing that they are doing when they are actually performing that good thing. In today's video, we are going to be exploring all that, where these people are actually coming out to plead and said, no, give reparations to Black Americans. They deserve it. They need it. Why are we still holding it? And I'm happy I saw those videos. I have some clips for you guys. Let me go ahead and roll out those clips, and I'll come back with commentaries. Credit belongs to original creators of every clips and stitches we have in today's episode. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe, like, comment, and share. This is just for educational purposes, not to bash anyone. And yes, with that being said, let's dive right into this video. Welcome back to the channel.
Do you guys believe in reparations?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Because you know, like, Black people been through a lot and everything, right? And then
Yeah.
it trickles down and it's supposed to come right back up. It's supposed to be like a full circle, right?
In an ideal world.
Yeah.
Like the water cycle type of thing,
Yes.
Yeah.
right? So the question of the day is, do you got $1?
If I didn't use my last cash,
Do you have Venmo, Apple Pay?
I do have $1.
You do?
I do have $1.
Thank you.
I mean, sorry, man. All I got is $5.
I dig your necklaces.
Thank you.
Those are mad cool.
Yeah.
All right, have a good day, man.
You
Thanks for
too.
getting back.
We built apartheid, and now we're refugees. We took the land, we took people's futures, we took their dignity, and now we're being given refuge? What must it feel like to be a person of color, a Black person in South Africa, watching my people who broke this country and now run off to claim victimhood somewhere else? We say we're afraid, but we built what we were afraid of. In 1994, we didn't give over power, we just gave over the mess and said, it's your fault, you deal with it now. But our white hands are clean. And now we're fleeing the country, crying reverse racism. So Black South Africans, please tell the bad guy right here how it makes you feel. Because this is not right. This is sick. And I don't want to be the perpetrator anymore.
Absolutely, I support reparations for the descendants of enslaved Africans in America. As a white man running for governor, I recognize the deep scars left by slavery and the ongoing systemic racism that continues to affect the Black communities. It's not just about acknowledging the past, it's about taking concrete steps to address the economic and social inequalities that persist today. As governor, I'll make it my mission to ensure that Black residents of West Virginia, especially those who are descendants of enslaved Americans, receive reparations. This is about justice, about making things right, about helping our state heal and move forward together. And let's take a cue from California. They're leading the charge with innovative approaches to reparations, setting up structures to determine eligibility and ensure fairness. We can learn from their example and tailor a program that fits West Virginia's unique needs and history. This isn't a formal policy speech. This is just me talking to you heart to heart. It's time for change, and I'm committed to being a part of that change. Let's work together to create a future where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. It's the least we can do, and it's long overdue.
When white people in the United States balk at the idea of paying reparations to Black Americans who descended from slaves, they disagree with the Bible. Reparations are a form of compensation or restitution made to those who have suffered injustice, particularly those in cases of racial inequality, discrimination, and slavery. The idea of paying reparations to Black Americans is not a new one. It has been a topic of discussion for decades, if not centuries. However, it has gained renewed attention and support in recent years, following the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement and the growing recognition of systemic racism in American society. As a Christian, I believe that reparations are not only a matter of justice and equity, but also a reflection of God's character and values. In the Bible, we see numerous examples of God's concern for the oppressed, the marginalized, and the downtrodden. From the Israelites' liberation from slavery in Egypt to the ministry of Jesus among the poor and the outcast, we see a consistent theme of God's love for those who are on the margins of society. One of the key biblical principles that underlie the idea of reparations is the concept of restitution. In the book of Leviticus, we see God commanding the Israelites to make restitution to those whom they have wronged. Leviticus 6, 1 through 5 says, "If anyone sins and commits a breach of faith against the Lord by deceiving his neighbor in a matter of deposit or security or through robbery, or if he has oppressed his neighbor or has found something lost and lied about it, swearing falsely in any of all the things that people do and sin thereby, if he has sinned and has realized his guilt and will restore what he took by robbery when he got it by oppression or deposit that was committed to him or the lost thing that he found or anything about which he has sworn falsely, he shall restore in full and shall add a fifth to it and give it to him to whom it belongs on the day that he realizes his guilt." This passage emphasizes the importance of making restitution to those who have been wronged and not just restoring what was taken, but adding to it as a form of compensation. This principle of restitution can be applied to the issue of reparations to Black Americans who have suffered centuries of enslavement, discrimination, and systemic oppression. Another biblical principle that supports the idea of reparations is the concept of Jubilee. In Leviticus 25, God commands the Israelites to observe a Jubilee every 50th year, during which all debts are forgiven, all slaves to be set free, and all property to be returned to its original owners. This was a radical idea of economic justice designed to prevent the accumulation of wealth and power in the hands of a few and to ensure that all members of society had equal access to resources and opportunities. The idea of Jubilee can be seen as a model for reparations in that it seeks to address the root causes of inequality and oppression rather than just treating the symptoms. By forgiving debts, freeing slaves, and returning property, Jubilee seeks to create a more just and equitable society, one in which everyone has the opportunity to flourish. As a Christian, I believe paying reparations to Black Americans is only a matter of justice and equity, but also it is a reflection of God's values and character. Through the biblical principles of restitution and Jubilee, we see a model for how we can address the historical and systemic injustices that have plagued our society for far too long. While the issue of reparations is complex and contentious, I believe that as Christians, we have a responsibility to seek justice.
Should the government pay reparations for slavery?
Yeah, 40 acres and a mule. Haven't gotten that shit. I should get free tuition. I should get free tuition at least for sure.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so because we can hardly pay for what we need to pay for now, all of the services and things, so.
Do you think the government should pay reparations for slavery?
I mean, honestly, yeah. I feel like, yeah, I mean, for what happened in the past, like, there was a lot that happened, you know? It was really traumatizing and changed like the way that Black people are today.
When there are talks like this, it's boiled down to white families should pay Black families. I'm an Irish immigrant, or my family is sort of Irish immigrant. Now, I would be paying reparations for things that were done when my family never even lived in the country. Honestly, why should we pay for the crimes of the dead?
Reparations is understood to be controversial. But we now know that reparatory compensation is in fact conventional. It happens every day. Linda, when you first approached me about doing this paper, I thought about the arguments I'd heard over the years in terms of reparations opposition. The first of which is that we can't do reparations because it is too expensive, a fiscal impossibility. Secondly, we can't do reparations because it is too difficult, too hard, administrative impossibility. And lastly, the most galling, the most disturbing is the notion we can't do reparations for Black Americans because the harm happened too long ago, what I call a temporal impossibility. And so our paper literally takes on this argument by looking at the vast array of programs that look like reparations and ways of helping people who have been harmed.
When we were uncovering program after program after program, some of the students found it quite painful. And they expressed the feeling that everyone else, except Black Americans, had their harms recognized and to some extent compensated.
When you see Christmas tree farmers being compensated for lost crops, when we see fishermen being compensated for economic losses, but when we see communities who've literally seen black bodies swinging from trees, those harms not even being acknowledged.
I think one of the programs that was most interesting is the series of reparations programs that we have for Americans and also for Marshall Islanders who were harmed by the U.S. program to develop the nuclear bomb. Mm-hmm. But there are about 135,000 people and or their descendants, if they're gone, who have received some compensation due to this exposure and the illnesses caused.
This research is tremendously consequential because we as a country just celebrated D-Day. And we had more than 1 million black vets during World War II who were discriminatorily denied the benefits of the GI Bill in terms of employment benefits, housing benefits, educational benefits.
You know, I wouldn't be sitting here today if my father, who was a World War II veteran, had not been able to take advantage of the GI Bill, which meant he got to come home, go to college, buy a home. He became part of the middle class, along with millions. And this was something that was denied to the vast majority of Black Americans. Well, the polls show that one of the main reasons that people don't support reparations is that they think it is too administratively difficult. They just doubted that the government could administratively handle it.
We've demonstrated the government is actually good at this, right? It's not a matter of it being impossible. We're actually practice, experience, and have some expertise. And then fiscally speaking, if we're honest with ourselves, you demonstrated quite well in the audit of these federal programs that we spend millions, billions of dollars on a regular routine basis in terms of providing compensation to people who have been harmed through no fault of their own.
The thing that surprised me the most was the creativity that the government has in terms of how we pay for this wide range of reparatory compensation programs. I mean, who knew that all of these programs, coal miners, Black lung is paid for by excise taxes on coal, the range of pretty interesting financial mechanisms to pay for some of these programs is very interesting.
The impact of this research is it demonstrates that what we've assumed to be controversial and unusual is in fact quite conventional, regular, and routine, and that which we are well able to do because we're doing it every day.
I've never owned anyone. My neighbors, as far as I know, have never been owned by anyone. But the people who say we don't owe any reparations for the Civil War are ignoring something really huge. Or maybe they just don't know. Some people already got reparations. White people. White enslavers were paid for losing their human property. The actual people who were raped, tortured, whipped, and sold, and worse, were promised land to get a fresh start after the war, but they got nothing. When slavery was abolished, Congress paid nearly $1 million, which is 30 million in today's bucks, to white enslavers as compensation for losing their property in a war they lost. If a freed person didn't hit the road fast enough, they risked being re-enslaved under new laws that were just workarounds for all these white people losing their slaves. After the Civil War ended, Union General Sherman set aside 400,000 acres of confiscated Confederate land for Black families to start new lives on, up to 40 acres each. The Army loaned out mules to help them work the land. That's where the phrase 40 acres and a mule comes from. Black people were already working some of this land when Lincoln was assassinated and Andrew Johnson became president. Well, Johnson reversed the order. He gave the land back to the same Confederates who had just tried to destroy the country. the freed people were evicted. So they made all these things into crimes that were non-crimes. They were things like, if a black person didn't have a job, that was a crime. If a black person couldn't prove that they had a job, that was a crime. You could get arrested for that and a lot of other ridiculous things. But once you were in jail, you could be leased out as labor for private profit. This system of convict leasing allowed white landowners and businesses to replace slavery with something just as violent, just as profitable as slavery. No wonder there are still Confederate flags all across the South. Even after slavery was abolished, Black Americans were not safe. Public lynchings became a regular threat. They were a form of terror used to keep free people in their place. They were planned events, announced in advance so everybody could attend. They were held in broad daylight. White families brought their children to watch Black people being hanged, tortured, brutally murdered. It was a festival. People sold food. There were postcards made. People could buy postcards of the mutilated bodies hanging from trees and mail them in the mail or keep them as souvenirs. This country took care of Civil War criminals and punished the ones the war was supposed to free. And there was a lot more abuse I just can't fit into this video. Next time I'm going to talk about the stuff that happened in relation to the Great Depression and World War II. And then after that, I'll have one on civil rights, the era when I was growing up, how it all ties in to the racism that is part and parcel of our grand land today. White people, you especially need to get curious. Join me in this research, and you'll find that people are willing and able to come in with their education and their experience to help you learn. You just have to be open to it. We need to be willing to be uncomfortable.
Do you support reparations for American descendants of slaves?
How can you possibly justify taking money through force taxation from someone today who was never a slaver, whose families were never slavers, who has never been involved in slavery in any way, and giving it to someone today who was never a slave, who has never been a slave, whose parents weren't slaves, whose grandparents weren't slaves? None of that is to diminish the horror of slavery, but to say that reparations is a nutso solution.
Did America benefit from slavery?
I didn't.
But did America's history benefit from slavery?
I mean, no.
All right, so I'm going to ask this very directly. It's a very way important this. Did your parents receive anything from the New Deal, and specifically Social Security?
Perhaps not yet. They probably will.
So
perhaps
you don't
Social Security.
Yeah, American descendants of slaves were excluded from Social Security as a means of public policy. So when you look at the position that American descendants of slaves are in, that's generational poverty. So you're going to have to be very explicit about the reason why you're doing this thing. We have to recognize that the assets were taken from American descendants of slaves, and it's the federal government's job to redress them.
Hundreds of years ago, I would have supported it at the time.
At the time, we're talking about the 80s, my friend.
We're talking about slavery.
We're talking about as recent as... No. Let's not do that. If we stay on slavery, we're going to be stuck there forever. It's slavery that led to Jim Crow, that led to redlining, that led to the war on poverty, that led to the war on drugs, that led to the situations that even your partner cited.
Yeah, and
that's the government's job.
But you want to respond to that today by discriminating again on the basis of race,
No.
reinforcing the divides. Instead of, we can't go back and change the past. We have to move forward without reinforcing divides, without discriminating on the basis of race, without taking from one group to give to another. We have to move forward for equality for all, not try to look backward and do all that.
We have.
Black folks, I just love it when they say that Ukraine needs money. They just need money because they're being oppressed by a much larger force. Interesting. Very nice, white America. I am so glad that you have grasped this concept that you need money to fight oppression. It's a fantastic concept that you now agree that you need firearms, like the Black Panthers and so many revolutionaries have been saying for the longest time, to fight against a far superior force. It's very interesting how you subtly change the narrative when it comes to white Ukrainians. Just admit it, white America, you only care about them because they're white. That's the only reason why. You won't say that, right? But then in the same breath, you will ask black Americans who you know have been oppressed for centuries here. And you'll tell us, just wait, it's not about money. Why are you so selfish? You tell us that, meanwhile spending a fortune on a white country.
After Richard Nixon declared his war on drugs in 1971, the U.S. prison population rose from 300,000 to 2.3 million incarcerated people, 2/3 of which were people of color. In 1994, President Nixon's domestic policy chief, John Ehrlichman, had an interesting admission to make about that war on drugs. He said, the Nixon campaign in 1968 and the Nixon White House after that had two enemies, the anti-war left and black people. We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black, but by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities, we could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did, he said. We know by way of statistics that white people are more likely to be dealing and using, but they've been attacking public education for teaching basic facts like this for the past decade to stir up racial anxiety in the white population. A black man without a criminal record is less likely to get a job interview callback than a white man that has a criminal record. When you use the power of the state to criminalize an entire race of people, to skew the perception of that race by purposefully creating conditions with the intent for those conditions to mimic what you want white people to think of that race, what is that? It's racism, but it's also violence. It's ethnic cleansing. The fact of the matter is that if we stopped purposefully creating volatile and unequal conditions for people of color with the intent to skew the white perception of them, our society would grow and build from the ground up. When we help the black community on a state and federal level, we improve conditions overall. But that would mean troglodytes like Senator Tom Cotton, amongst others, wouldn't have jobs anymore. Fascism would be out of business, and that's not profitable for them. Black people rotting in prison, even less likely than white people with the same charges to get a job offer after release, creates conditions for constant recidivism within the black community. And the sole reason for these intentionally crafted conditions is white profit. Slavery never went away. It just became privatized. White people in power are responsible for the way white people perceive people of color. They sold white America a narrative about their character and then meticulously developed a way to keep the black community in poverty and to keep them in the prison system so that the narrative they wanted to push would become a visible reality. So when white people say that they're just not that into politics, what they really mean is that they have no interest and no desire to fix this. And everybody should take that personally.
It could go really all the way to full term. But even if you look just at viability, we protect sea turtles and their eggs, and we should. It's a wonderful, noble thing that we do, federal and state protections for sea turtles. But it's not just the turtles; it's their eggs, and those are unborn sea turtles, and very significant penalties for that. And no one asks, is the sea turtle viable when it's in the egg? It's a sea turtle, a developing sea turtle.
When white people in the United States balk at the idea of paying reparations to black Americans who descended from slaves, they disagree with the Bible. To begin with, let's first define what reparations mean. Reparations are a form of compensation or restitution made to those who have suffered injustice specifically in cases of racial inequality, discrimination, and slavery. The idea of paying reparations to Black Americans is not a new one. It has been a topic of discussion for decades, if not centuries. However, it has gained renewed attention and support in recent years. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. also advocated for reparations in the form of economic advancement for Black Americans. As a Christian, I believe that reparations are not only a matter of justice and equality, but also a reflection of God's character. In the Bible, we see numerous examples of God's concern for the oppressed, the marginalized, and the downtrodden. From the Israelites' liberation from slavery in Egypt to Jesus' ministry among the poor and the outcast, we see a consistent theme of God's love for those who are on the margins of society. One of the key biblical principles that underlie the idea of reparations is the concept of restitution. In the book of Leviticus, we see God commanding the Israelites to make restitution to those whom they have wronged. Leviticus chapter 6 says that if anyone sins and commits a breach of faith against the Lord by deceiving his neighbor in a matter of deposit or security or through robbery, or if he has oppressed his neighbor or found something lost and lied about it, swearing falsely, he shall restore it in full and shall add a fifth to it and give it to him to whom it belongs. This passage emphasizes the importance of making restitution to those who have been wronged, and not just restoring what has been taken, but adding to it as a form of compensation. This principle of restitution can be applied to the issue of reparations to Black Americans who have suffered centuries of enslavement, discrimination, and systemic oppression. Another biblical principle that supports the idea of reparations is the concept of Jubilee. In Leviticus chapter 25, God commands to the Israelites to observe a Jubilee. This was a radical idea of economic justice designed to prevent the accumulation of wealth and power in the hands of a few and to ensure that all members of society had equal access to resources and opportunities. The idea of Jubilee can be seen as a model for reparations in that it seeks to address the root causes of inequality and oppression rather than just treating the symptoms. By forgiving debts, freeing slaves, and returning property, Jubilee seeks to create a more just and equitable society, one in which everyone has the opportunity to flourish. As a Christian, I believe that paying reparations to Black Americans is not only a matter of justice and equity, but also a reflection of God's character and values. Through the biblical principles of restitution and Jubilee, we see a model for how we can address the historical and systemic injustices that have plagued our society for far too long. While the issue of reparations is complex and contentious, I believe that as Christians, we have a responsibility to seek justice.
This is one of the most well-articulated pro-reparations arguments that I've ever heard.
On race. It's based on status. A Black person who comes here from Nigeria or Jamaica or Brazil, they're not owed a penny from America. They chose to come here. We are talking about the people who are freedmen, the descendants of people emancipated by this country. We still know those people, because you are one of those people. I am one of those people. A lot of those people here in the audience, I just told you I could break down my genealogy. My dear Nana was 101 when she died. My great-grandfather just died 3 weeks ago. He was 100. He remembers fighting alongside white veterans in World War II. He remembers coming back and seeing his white veterans get homes and lands and pensions and the door being slammed in his face. And we don't want to say that America that says liberty and justice for all, that's okay, get over it, keep it moving. But we have to hear never forget for everyone else's tragedy. And as far as from where reparations will come, I need people to stop thinking it's going to come from their tax dollars. Look at all the trillions that America spends right now. We talk about inflation, the invisible tax. We have something called the PPP loans. Do we remember the PPP loans? America spent $6 trillion on PPP loans. You know what they just did? They canceled all of it. And we didn't even know. America gave the corporations, the banks alone, $29 trillion. You know what they did with that? They canceled all of it. So let's start acting as if America is as hamstrung by debt as they want to pretend.
Black Americans do not deserve reparations. That's actually false. We're the only group in America that has not been repaid after centuries of legal theft. Enslaved people built this economy basically for free. Well, actually, yeah, for free. After slavery, new laws was built to keep stealing. Black families were denied land. They were redlined out of housing. They were shut out of the GI Bill and loans that actually helped white families build wealth. And let's not say it's impossible, because America has paid reparations to the Japanese Americans and also the Native Americans. Yeah, we can argue whether it was enough or not, but that's besides the point. The point is, America knows how to pay. It's just who they choose to pay. So the question isn't whether can we afford reparations. The question is, why does America keep stalling to pay the debt that is owed to descendants of slavery? Why is that? Can y'all let me know?
Why are Americans so obsessed with, like, who deserves what? You know, whenever they talk about they're going to do welfare, they're going to do reparations, whatever it is, people go, well, it's about who deserves it. Who deserves it? I don't get any. I deserve it. It's like, I actually don't give a shit who deserves payouts from the government. To me, it's a net positive whenever anyone gets the help they need. Whether they deserve the help or not is irrelevant. Whether they morally, did something fucked up, and I don't care. If someone's life got better because of a payment from the government, I'm happy. Even if I didn't get one, because I'm not a selfish prick. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care if poor people deserve the money. They need it to live. So give it to them. Like, it's not that fucking hard to understand. People complicate it. People don't get mystified with all this shit. People love to complicate this kind of thing. It's not that complicated. Oh, look, people are starving because of the material conditions we've put them in. Okay, well, if we gave them money and aid, they would not be starving anymore. Then we should fucking do that. Like, I don't know. Oh, look, because of the conditions, mostly exacerbated by racism and also racism and government policy that was racist and all of this, black people have much less generational wealth than white people. Okay, well, we could remedy this. Well, but they didn't earn that money. Okay, I don't care. Like, I don't care. It would help people. Why are you so adamantly against helping people because of some weird, like, balance of, like, deserving? It's fucking weird, man. Do reparations because it would help people. That's why why am I in favor of reparations for slavery? Because it would help people. And because I think they deserve it. But aside from that, it would make people's lives better and it would decrease the wealth gap between black and white Americans. That would be good. So I'm in favor of it. Like, it's not that fucking complicated. It's ridiculous.
Here's why I want reparations. I don't just want reparations, I am owed reparations. I'm not even going to get into the black side of things because clearly I'm a black woman. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm asking, requesting, declaring my reparations for being born in 1992 and following the so-called American dream that was proposed to me by the American society. I went to school, I joined clubs, I volunteered, I went to a pretty prestigious college, I graduated with honors on time, and I even did internships. I went and, got the car, I got the house, I got the job, I had the savings account, all of that stuff. And then even with all of those things that I was told to do and I was given all of those steps to complete, I completed every single one with a smile, never late to work, never missed a day, never anything of the sort, not even so much as a write-up. And the American dream, I slowly began to realize was killing me. I had not one, not two, but 3 mental breakdowns in my 30 years on this planet. I'm not even going to count the little baby ones. I'm going to just say the 3 major ones, okay? And as well as having to do every single thing myself, including provide my own health care, even though I worked on jobs that claimed they provided health care and health benefits, and I never received a single dime or opportunity of those. And the same breath, I had to care for my mother, who is of 56 years old, as well as my generation boomer grandmother, as well as my generation boomer grandfather. I've had to carry things on my back that were not my burden. I simply followed the blueprint. I did what was asked of me. I did what I was told, and it still went to shit. It is still shit. The world is watching America crumble. The world knew that it was bullshit. And we were sitting here being spoon-fed this bullshit and we were believing it. I still want what's due to me. I went into debt. I followed the blueprint and all it did was get me student loan debt, car loan debt, house debt. What more could I have done? And I did it properly. Do not think I did not do it properly because I was so by the book. I was so type A that you couldn't even tell me I was type A. That's how fucking dedicated I was to this dream. And it's still some shit. So I want my reparations. I want my millennial reparations because the world still went to shit and it's not my fault. Fuck you.
I am so sick of this conversation, but here it goes. Reparations. King Charles and Sir Keir Starmer are set to face a demand that the UK pays £200 billion in compensation for its role in the transatlantic slave trade. 15 Caribbean governments have decided to put slavery reparations on the table at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Samoa later this month. Of course they have. Who doesn't like being given pots of money because they believe they've been wronged? UN Judge Patrick Robinson even called the 200 billion figure an underestimation of the damage caused by the trade. He said that he was amazed that countries involved in slavery think that they can bury their heads in the sand on the issue, and stated once a state has committed a wrongful act, it's obliged to pay reparations. You know what this is, don't you? They've seen how woeful and weak our government is. They've watched Foreign Secretary David Lammy flippantly hand back the Chagos Islands, Labour using their vast majority to get policies through unchallenged. And these countries have thought, we're onto something here. David Lammy has also in the past said that he would take the responsibility of being the first Foreign Secretary descended from the slave trade incredibly seriously. He said that his Guyanese parents would not have believed their skinny son in NHS prescription glasses who got stopped and searched on the streets of Tottenham could end up reaching the Foreign Office. Sorry, but this sounds a little bit like we're in sort of chip-on-shoulder territory. That's just my view. David also tweeted, in 1833, Parliament passed the Slavery Abolition Act, £17 billion of compensation to slave owners for the loss of their property. My ancestors, the slaves, received no reparations. Some people simply do not know their history or do not want to know hard truths. OK, let me give you some hard truths, David. Even if we were to agree to reparations, who do we pay? Just because my skin is considered black doesn't mean I am one of the wronged party. This country is also full of people from all nations. Should they contribute to the pot paid just because they live and work in the UK? I mean, where do you think the money's going to come from? And for those receiving the funds, for all we know, they might be descendants of slave owners, because the trade did not happen without the cooperation of many from those very nations demanding the reparations. Unless we're all prepared to take a DNA test first so we can work out what our actual ancestry is and whether they were friend or foe to the trade or whether many demanding reparations are in fact even Caribbean, then how do we ascertain who gets what? You see, the problem with this is that not all Caribbeans are innocent. Being black doesn't make it so. Many benefited from the slave trade, and to carte blanche blame it on the UK and demand a ludicrous sum is frankly naive. And I don't see why I, as a Ghanaian descendant born in Newcastle, living in the UK, should pay a penny towards it. And whilst the slave trade was an abhorrent, vile business, it brought some benefits to those nations. Have you factored that into the calculation, David? Ironically, it's not black and white.
That is all I actually got for this video, and that is why I keep saying that when we see videos like this, we try our possible best to appreciate people actually coming out to be like, yes, these people deserve this and please give them this reparation. It is not all white folks that can actually come out and say that. Some of them literally know the truth. In fact, some of them, even if you give them, you put it in their hand, instead of them to give it to the black community, they would rather trash it out. Do you get? But when we see people like this, we tend to appreciate them. Like, for sure, for real, let's just be sincere. Black Americans deserve this reparation. Black Americans have been through a lot. Black Americans have seen the unseeable. So why are they still holding the reparation? Why is it taking long? Why do we need to come here, cry, shout, scream, and it is looking like it's coming closer, and they will look for another thing to just cover it up? Do you get? Why are they still looking for excuses? You know, that's why it pains me when I see some people do videos like, oh, why do we need to give reparation to people that are not the slave? Like, what do you mean people that are not the slave? They are the enslaved descendants. This reparation, according to some of my research that I've made, have been paid to the enslaver, which is the people that owns those slaves, have received reparation. A lot of people have been compensated. A lot of people have taken their own share and they've moved on with it. So why is it now difficult for Black Americans to now have their own? Why is it difficult for them to just access schools? Why is it difficult for them to just access what is their portion? As far as I'm concerned, it is their portion. And that is why I will still keep saying it. Black Americans should not just keep quiet, but should just keep crying and keep saying it until their voices is being heard, until they've been given what they want. Because if these white folks can also recognize and be like, we do not need to hold this thing, we just need to give these people, let them just go their way. Why is it looking so difficult for the so-called white supremacy to be able to do what they are supposed to do best? So sometimes I keep asking myself, all the things you keep accumulating over and over and over again, you keep enjoying since how many decades? For over 400 years, you have not still considering these people to be like, it is just time for them to just take it. Even, it got to a point even in the Bible where God personally has told Pharaoh, like, let my people go. Do you get? That's the point where Black Americans are right now. Now they are not even saying, oh, we're going to build our own community, or we're going to build our own country, or we are going to split the country into two. They are only asking for what they feel like it is supposed to be theirs, which is reparation. And I don't see anything bad in giving them their reparation so that they can just do their thing, have their way, and be happy. Be happy as the enslaved descendant and be comfortable and feel that joy of, okay, what our forefathers, our foreparents have gone through, we have actually been able to like get something out of it. So I don't see anything difficult in this. It is only been difficult because one thing I've seen is a lot of this white supremacy do not even want the leftists to like equal with them in anything. Do you get? So they are scared of, okay, if we give them this thing right now, won't they be above us? If they are above us, is that not over for us? But you know the truth. You know, even the orange man knows the truth. Even the orange man, I've seen one of his videos where the orange man actually said, Black Americans built this nation. I've seen it. I've seen different clips about that. You can also go to TikTok and research some clips yourself. So if you know that these people actually built the nation, these people suffered for the nation, these people, some of them even ignorantly voted for you, all in the name of getting this same reparation. And at the end of the day, the only thing that you keep doing is just to keep making life not funny, imputing tariffs, bringing out new bills, laws on sponsorship, visa, tariffs on tourist visa, and so on and so forth, and leaving what is the most important thing, which is leaving the Black Americans one place without talking about the reparation. So for how long do we keep crying? For how long do we keep asking for what is our own? Just imagine this phone is my property. I still need to keep asking that you should give me my own property. Like, how does that even sound? It didn't even go well at all. It's not making sense. And I hope a lot of them will be able to, a lot of Black Americans will be able to keep voicing out until these people actually do the right thing, because they know the right thing to do. I can tell you for a fact that they know the right thing to do. They just don't want to do it because they feel like the moment we don't do it, it will get to a point, they will get tired and they will not talk about it again. But we can get tired. We are not saying it for fighting, because I keep saying it that this page, we do not support any form of violence. But if you know the right thing, do the right thing. And if you do the right thing, everybody will just move in peace and everybody will live in peace. And you will continue to enjoy your white supremacy White House without having to bug or disturb anybody. And nobody's going to keep disturbing or bugging you. So to those white folks that are saying Black Americans do not deserve reparation, Black Americans do not deserve this, Black Americans do not deserve that, I wonder where that spirit is actually coming from. And I pray that may that spirit be cast out. That's my prayer for them, honestly. Anyways, let me know what you think about this in the comment section. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe, like this video, drop me a comment, and lastly, do not forget to share. This is not to bash anybody. This is just we educating ourselves. Credit belongs to original creators of every clips and stitches we have in our today's episode. And guys, with no further ado, I do like in my videos. I'm going to be Simba, and I'll see you guys in my next one. For now, bye guys. I love you. Mwah.